That's a pretty big scrap wood pile. It's full of things that weren't quite right for the projects they came from, and haven't really been quite right for anything since. That means I've had a lot of trips to Home Depot this year. And these boards have been neglected because of it. But today, the sweatshirts need somewhere to go. Now, I could just buy an IKEA shelf, I know that. But it's not really worth it. I don't want an IKEA shelf. And to buy even a decent shelf off of Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, I'd rather just buy some new tools. Can't get new boards though. It'd ruin the whole point of this project, right? I think there's a threshold somewhere between good and perfect, and that threshold is what I call good enough. And the scrapwood pile is kind of a jackpot for good enough. And besides, these boards only have to hold sweatshirts. Sometimes I feel pretty guilty doing projects like this, though. It's just that there are so many other things that are more important than building a shelf out of scrap wood. Other projects that need to get done. But right now, this is the one that I'm thinking about, and this is the one that needs to get done, so I guess that means we're doing this one. So, anyways, I think these boards that I'm taking from the scrapwood pile are what are called live edge boards, and they were milled right on somebody's property using a chainsaw, so they're a little rough. This 12-inch planer should help me take care of that a little bit, but I haven't used this thing since it became mine about 10 years ago after inheriting it from my dad, and now it belongs to Brady and I. I'm hesitant to use it, not really because I think it won't work, but because it means something to be using it again. And I was babying it a bit, so it took a bit longer than I thought it would. The sun had pretty much set by the time that I'd finished planing everything, but I didn't really want to stop yet. Recently, it's been really tempting for me to pick up all the new tools and new shelves and, whatever else, but I think I've been mistaking newness as a guarantee of quality or a guarantee of longevity. And just recently that hasn't been the case. New things have kind of sucked, and I'd way rather have something that I've made, even if it's really shitty, like this shelf kind of is. But having made it gives the shelf a history, and its history is part of my history, and that makes having it so much more special. And so I'd rather have something that I've made, even though it's terrible. Except for cars. Cars you kind of want to be new, or at least you want them to act like new. Mom's car won't start. She thought it was a dead battery, so we tried to jump it, but...
Same noise as before?
That single click tends to mean it's the starter. So sometimes you can hit the starter, and it frees a little pin that gets stuck inside these sometimes. At least so you can drive home. Not this one, though. This time we need to tow it. You want cars to be as good as new. Once I'd cut out all the boards, roughly, it was time to it was time to start assembling them. So to do that, I was using a drill driver and a impact driver, both of them gifts from the younger brother, who is much better at these things than I am. Before this, I didn't know what the difference was, but apparently drills are great for drilling and drivers are good for driving. You can do either with either, but it's best to use them for what they're intended for. Always use the right tool for the job, and never use your teeth as tools. I was using a number 6 countersink bit here, and pretty much always used Phillips head screws. My dad used square head screws when I was a kid, and I thought it was pretty cool then. But when I'm working on stuff now that he built, it kind of just pisses me off because I never have a square bit on me. Or a square cabinet, apparently. But that's not a huge deal. All it's got to do is hold sweatshirts. I think that'll do just fine. We're just building a shelf. So this is the shelf. Only thing left to do now is to put it on the wall. And to do that first, I have to find where the studs are. Here's the other thing though. I bought a stud finder from Home Depot, and I thought I was being all mature and adult, but then the stud finder didn't even work, so I had to go back to doing it how I was doing it before I had the stud finder. I don't know, maybe there's something weird with this wall, but I just kind of lined up the shelf and then marked where the stud was on the wall and used a laser to transfer that onto the shelf. And here it is, a kind of shitty shelf that's good enough to hold sweatshirts, made with Phillips head screws. Oh, and we also got my mom's car running. It wasn't the starter, although we replaced that too.